All right, I am on page 222 at the top where it says your turn. There's a couple of graphs, and they've asked for you to find the slope. They gave you 2 points on this graph. The coordinates of this point is 0, -3. The coordinates of this other point is 5, 3. It doesn't really matter whether I call this one point 1 or this one point 1. Just as long as you have decided which one is your first point, which one is your second point, just be consistent, like I said earlier. Okay, so this is y2, which is that 3, minus y1. So y2 minus y1, that is minus a -3. Remember, subtracting a negative number is the same as adding. So 3 minus a -3 gives you 6. And then x2 minus x1, so that's 5 minus 0. So 6 over 5, and the slope of this line is 1.2. Okay, notice that it runs up and to the right, so it is positive. That makes sense. All right, over here, first point is -3, 2. The second point is -2, -3. And again, it doesn't really matter which one I say is the first point and which one I say is the second point, as long as you're consistent. All right, so y2 minus y1, -3 minus a +2. So those are your change in y's. And then x2, which is a -2, minus x1. So -2 minus a -3. -2 minus a -3 is like saying -2 plus 3, and that is a 1. So -5 over 1. And you can see that this line runs down and to the right, so it is a negative. Okay, the slope formula for the slope of a line is the ratio of the difference in y values between any 2 points on the line. We've already said that, but they're saying it again, probably because it's important. If x1 and x2 and y1 and y2 are any 2 points on the line. Okay, I don't know why they did that. If x1, y1 and x2, y2 are any 2 points on the line, because those aren't points. Those aren't ordered pairs because you have to have an x and a y in each of your ordered pairs. So I think they have a typo. If x1, y1 and x2, y2 are any 2 points on a line, then the slope of that line is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And remember, they like to use the letter m for some reason to represent slope. All right, join me on page 223 in just a second. All right, it says find the slope of each line passing through the given points using the slope formula. Describe the slope as positive, negative, 0, or undefined. Okay, so number 9, the graph shows the linear relationship. Here is this. They gave you 2 points, 2, -5, and -1, 9. I decided that point 1 was going to be 2, -5. I decided that point 2 was -1, 9. It doesn't really matter which one's point 1 and point 2, just be consistent. Okay, so I did y2 minus y1. Again, you're subtracting a negative, which means really you're saying 9 plus 5, which is 14. And then x2 minus x1. So -1 minus 2. And you get a -3. So 14/3 is the slope of this line. And you guys can just leave it as an improper fraction. That's not going to bother me. Okay? But just make sure it's in lowest terms. All right, number 10, all they gave you was a table. But you can still do, this ordered pair can be point 1. This ordered pair can be your second point. And again, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You get 0 over 1. When you divide that out, that's a slope of 0. Remember from the previous pages, a slope of 0 is a horizontal line. All right, now I'm down a little bit further on page 223 where it says interpreting slope. And you're going to be asked to do this quite a bit in this module, interpreting slope, meaning like what does the slope mean in this particular situation, okay? So given a real world situation, you can find the slope and then interpret the slope in terms of the context of the situation. All right, so here's an example, 3a. The graph shows the relationship between a person's age and his or her estimated maximum heart rate. Use the 2 points that are labeled on the graph. Slope is rise over run, so we took y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and we get a slope of -1. And it says interpret the slope. The slope being -1 means that for every year that a person's age increases, because that's the x-axis, his or her maximum heart rate decreases by 1 beat per minute. So basically, the older you are, the slower your maximum heart rate should be. All right, and then B is another example. The height of a plant y in centimeters after x days is a linear relationship. The point 30, 15 and 40, 25 are on the line. And notice on this one, they didn't even give you a graph. They're just giving you a verbal description. Use the 2 points that are given, and you're calculating slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You get 10 divided by 10, and that is a slope of 1. It's a positive slope because it is going up and to the right. In other words, as x increases, y also increases. So, in other words, as more time, as more days go by, the plant is getting taller. Okay, looking at number 12 on page 224, it says find and interpret the slope. That's what you're doing for both 11 and 12, but we're just doing 12. The number of cubic feet of water, y, in a reservoir, x hours after the water starts flowing into the reservoir, is a linear function. The points 40, 3000 and 60, 4000 are on the line of the function. Okay? The number of cubic feet of water, that's your y values. The number of hours after the water starts flowing into the reservoir, those are your x values. Okay? So you're going to calculate the slope, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. You wind up with 1000 divided by 20. Little shortcut, you can cancel out a set of zeros, and that becomes 100 divided by 2. So m is 50. The slope is 50. What that means is there are 50 cubic feet of water added to the reservoir every hour.